Welcome back to our channel, dear listeners. Before we embark on tonight's epic journey through the magnificent halls of Valhalla, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Your support helps us create these in-depth mythological stories that are perfect for relaxation and sleep. Tonight, we'll explore the legendary Hall of the Slain, where fallen warriors feast and train for the final battle that will determine the fate of all existence. We'll discover the intricate selection process of the Valkyries, witness the daily routines of the Einherjar, and understand how this divine realm has shaped human concepts of heroism for over 1,000 years. So settle in comfortably, dim the lights, and let me transport you to Gladsheim, where golden shields form the roof and spear shafts serve as rafters in the most magnificent hall ever constructed. The Golden Hall of the Slain. High above the realm of Asgard, beyond the reach of mortal eyes and accessible only to those who have proven their worth through glorious death in battle, stands Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain. This magnificent structure dominates the divine landscape with its impossible grandeur, its golden walls gleaming like captured sunlight against the eternal twilight of the divine realm. The hall stretches across distances that defy mortal comprehension, its length measured not in feet or miles, but in the span of heroic deeds and legendary battles. 540 doors pierce its mighty walls, each one wide enough for 800 warriors to march through side by side when the final call to arms is sounded. These entrances are not mere architectural features but gateways between worlds, each one resonating with the echoes of battles fought and won across the 9 realms. When the morning light of Asgard first touches these doors, they sing with voices that sound like distant war horns calling heroes to battle. The wood from which they are carved came from trees that grew in sacred groves throughout the 9 realms, each one touched by the blood of heroes who fell defending their homes and loved ones. The iron that binds these doors was forged from weapons that never knew defeat, swords and spears that remained sharp and true through countless battles until their wielders earned their place among the Einherjar. The hinges upon which these mighty portals swing are crafted from metal that fell from the sky during the twilight of gods, meteoric iron that carries within it the memory of stars that died to provide light for warriors' final charges. When these doors open, the sound echoes across all 9 realms, serving as both welcome to the newly arrived and warning to those who would threaten the cosmic order that Valhalla exists to defend. The roof of Valhalla tells its own story of martial glory, constructed entirely from interlocking shields carried by the greatest warriors of every age. These are not crude iron discs hastily hammered by village smiths, but masterworks of defensive craft that once turned aside the mightiest blows in the heat of legendary combats. Each shield bears the scars of its final battle, dents and scrapes that serve as eternal testimony to the courage of its bearer. The shields come from every culture and era that has produced worthy warriors. Roman scuta rest alongside Viking round shields, Spartan aspides interlock with Celtic targes, and exotic designs from distant lands create patterns of protection that span the entire history of mortal conflict. Each shield was chosen not merely for its craftsmanship, but for the heroic deeds of its bearer, ensuring that the very roof of Valhalla serves as a monument to courage and sacrifice. During storms that sweep across Asgard, these shields sing in harmony, their bronze and iron surfaces vibrating with frequencies that create melodies of incredible beauty and power. The music they produce tells the stories of their bearers' final battles, each note corresponding to a moment of supreme courage or ultimate sacrifice. Those who listen carefully to these aerial symphonies can hear within them the whispered names of every hero who ever raised shield against overwhelming odds. Golden spear shafts form the rafters that support this gleaming canopy, their points directed toward the center of the hall, where they seem to focus the very essence of martial prowess into a single concentrated force. These weapons once belonged to champions whose names were sung in the mead halls of kings, spears that never missed their mark and always found their way to their enemies' hearts when thrown by worthy hands. The spears themselves tell stories of legendary hunts and epic battles. Some bear the notches and stains that mark successful campaigns against giants and monsters, while others show the wear patterns of weapons that served their masters through decades of honorable warfare. The golden shafts gleam with inner light that never dims, powered by the glory of the deeds they witnessed and the courage of the hands that once wielded them. When wind from the 9 realms blows through the hall, these spear shafts create their own music, a deeper harmony that complements the singing of the shields above. The sound is like the whisper of arrows in flight, the rush of javelins through battlefield air, and the triumphant cry of weapons that have found their marks in defense of justice and honor. The walls themselves are built from carefully fitted mail shirts, each one a masterpiece of protective craft that once preserved the life of a hero in the midst of deadly combat. The interlinked rings catch and reflect light in patterns that constantly shift and change, creating the illusion that the walls themselves are alive with movement and purpose. When the wind from the 9 realms blows through the hall, these ancient mail shirts sing with voices that recall the clash of steel on steel and the battle cries of fallen champions. Each mail shirt represents years of craftsmanship, countless hours spent linking ring to ring in patterns that could turn aside the sharpest blades and deadliest arrows. The metals used in their construction came from the finest sources across all the realms: iron from the deepest mines of Nidavellir, silver blessed by moonlight in Alfheim, and gold that was touched by dragon's breath in the deepest caverns of ancient mountains. The patterns woven into these protective garments tell their own stories of cultural exchange and martial tradition. Roman Larica Hamada rests beside Saxon Burney, Celtic chain mail interlocks with Byzantine Klybanian, creating a tapestry of protection that spans both geography and history. Each piece was chosen not merely for its defensive qualities but for the character of its wearer, ensuring that the walls of Valhalla serve as a testament to the universal nature of courage and honor. Between the links of these mail shirts, runes have been carved and filled with precious metals, creating a vast text that chronicles the deeds of every warrior who ever donned protective mail in defense of the innocent. These runes shift and change as new heroes arrive in Valhalla, ensuring that the record remains current and complete. Scholars among the Einherjar spend their leisure hours reading these walls, learning from the experiences of their predecessors and drawing inspiration from examples of extraordinary courage. Within this martial cathedral, the atmosphere thrums with an energy that speaks to something primal and powerful in the souls of all who enter. The very air seems charged with the memories of countless battles, filled with the phantom sounds of war horns and the distant thunder of charging cavalry. Those who breathe this air find their hearts beating faster, their blood warming with the anticipation of conflicts yet to come. The floor of Valhalla is paved with polished stones, each one taken from a battlefield where heroes fell with weapons in their hands and courage in their hearts. These stones have been worn smooth by the footsteps of the Einherjar, the chosen slain, who march across them daily in preparation for the final battle that will determine the fate of all existence. If you listen carefully, it is said that you can hear the whispered names of every warrior who ever drew his final breath while standing over his fallen enemies. The stones themselves come from legendary battlefields across all the 9 realms and throughout all of history. Fragments from the plain of Troy rest beside pieces of stone from the fields of Hastings, while chips from the walls of Jerusalem are mixed with remnants from the beaches of Normandy. Time holds no meaning in Valhalla, and the stones of its floor represent every moment when courage triumphed over cowardice, when the strong protected the weak, and when warriors chose honor over survival. Each stone bears invisible marks that record the final moments of the heroes who bled upon them in mortal life. The Einherjar who walk across these stones daily can feel beneath their feet the echo of every last stand, every desperate charge, and every moment when a warrior chose to face certain death rather than abandon his duty. This connection to the sacrifice of countless heroes serves as a constant reminder of the standards they must maintain and the legacy they must uphold. Between the stones, mortar mixed with earth from every battlefield in history creates joints that bind the floor into a unified surface. This earth contains the blood of heroes, the tears of those they died to protect, and the ashes of pyres that honored their memory. Walking across this floor is therefore a sacred act, a daily pilgrimage across the accumulated sacrifices of all who have chosen courage over safety. At the heart of the hall stands the high seat of Odin All-Father, carved from the wood of Yggdrasil itself and inlaid with precious metals that hold the light of stars that died before the creation of the mortal world. From this throne, the one-eyed god can observe the training and feasting of his chosen warriors, ensuring that they remain ready for the day when their services will be needed to defend the cosmic order against the forces of chaos and destruction. The throne itself is a masterwork of divine craftsmanship that incorporates materials and techniques unknown to mortal artisans. The wood from Yggdrasil possesses the property of containing infinite space within finite form, allowing the throne to serve simultaneously as a seat for Odin and as a window through which he can observe events throughout all the 9 realms. The carvings that cover its surface depict scenes from past, present, and future, showing the eternal cycle of conflict between order and chaos that gives meaning to the existence of Valhalla and its inhabitants. Precious metals inlaid throughout the throne structure create patterns that shift and change based on the cosmic forces at work at any given moment. When giants gather for raids against the ordered realms, the silver tracery glows with warning light. When heroes in the mortal world perform deeds worthy of recognition, the golden inlays pulse with approving radiance. When the time of Ragnarok draws closer, all the metals resonate together in harmonies that prepare the Einherjar for their ultimate destiny. The cushions upon which Odin rests are woven from cloud silk gathered from the highest reaches of the sky, material so fine that it seems to exist more as captured light than as physical substance. These cushions provide comfort that surpasses anything available in the mortal realm while also serving practical purposes. They can instantly relay information about conditions throughout the 9 realms, allowing the All-Father to respond immediately to threats or opportunities that require divine intervention. 2 ravens perch eternally upon the arms of this throne, Hugin and Munin, Thought and Memory, who serve as Odin's eyes and ears throughout all the 9 realms. These birds bring daily reports of battles fought and heroes fallen, helping the All-Father identify worthy candidates for admission to his eternal army. Their presence reminds all who enter Valhalla that death in battle is not an ending but a transformation, a passage from one form of service to another. The ravens themselves possess intelligence and wisdom that rivals that of the gods, accumulated through countless millennia of observing the deeds of mortals and immortals alike. Their memories contain the complete history of heroism throughout all the realms, making them invaluable advisors in the selection of new Einherjar and the planning of strategies for the final battle. When they speak, their words carry the weight of absolute authority, for they have witnessed every act of courage and cowardice since the creation of the world. The lighting within the hall comes not from torches or candles, but from the radiance of the aurora itself, captured and tamed to provide eternal illumination for the activities of the chosen slain. These dancing lights shift through all the colors of the spectrum, painting the golden walls and gleaming weapons with hues that mortal eyes have never seen. The aurora's glow ensures that within Valhalla there is neither day nor night, only an eternal twilight that perfectly suits the needs of warriors who have transcended the normal cycles of mortal existence. This divine illumination possesses qualities that enhance the abilities and awareness of those who dwell beneath it. The constantly shifting patterns of light help maintain the alertness and battle readiness of the Einherjar, while the specific frequencies of the aurora's radiance strengthen their supernatural constitutions and sharpen their divine senses. Under this light, warriors can perceive threats and opportunities that would remain invisible under normal illumination, giving them advantages that will prove crucial during the final battle. The colors themselves carry meaning and significance that the Einherjar learn to read like a form of divine writing. Green auroras indicate peaceful times when training can focus on technique and skill development. Red lights warn of approaching conflicts that may require intervention in the mortal realm. Blue radiance signals times of planning and preparation, when strategic thinking takes precedence over physical conditioning. The warriors of Valhalla become so attuned to these signals that they can adjust their activities and attitudes based solely on subtle changes in the light that bathes their eternal home. But Valhalla is more than just an architectural marvel or a showcase of divine craftsmanship. It is a living community, a brotherhood forged from the finest warriors of every age and culture, united by their shared experience of honorable death and their common dedication to preparing for the ultimate battle between order and chaos. Within these golden walls, heroes who might never have met in mortal life forge bonds that transcend the boundaries of time, culture, and personal history. The Valkyries' selection. The process by which warriors earn their place in Valhalla begins not with their death, but with their life and, more specifically, with how they choose to live when faced with mortal danger. The Valkyries, Odin's warrior maidens, observe every battle fought throughout the 9 realms, seeking those rare individuals who demonstrate the particular combination of courage, skill, and honor that marks them as suitable candidates for the eternal army. These divine choosers of the slain are far more than mere reapers of the battlefield dead. They are sophisticated judges of character and ability, trained from their divine youth to recognize the subtle signs that distinguish a true hero from a merely competent fighter. The Valkyries understand that raw courage alone is insufficient for admission to Valhalla. Many brave warriors fall in battle, but only those who combine their bravery with wisdom, honor, and genuine concern for others earn the right to join the Einherjar. Each Valkyrie has spent centuries mastering the art of reading human character under the extreme conditions of mortal combat. They study not just the obvious displays of martial prowess, but the countless small decisions that reveal a warrior's true nature. They observe how soldiers share their rations when supplies run low, how commanders treat prisoners after victory, and how individual fighters respond when faced with impossible odds and no witnesses to their conduct. The Valkyries maintain detailed records of promising warriors, following their careers through multiple campaigns and conflicts to ensure that observed courage is genuine and consistent, rather than a temporary aberration born of desperation or circumstance. They understand that admission to Valhalla is forever, and they take their responsibility for selecting the right candidates with corresponding seriousness. When a battle begins anywhere in the 9 realms, the Valkyries gather in their gleaming armor to observe the combat from positions that allow them to see not just the obvious displays of martial prowess, but the smaller moments that reveal a warrior's true character. They watch for the soldier who shares his last piece of bread with a wounded comrade, the champion who risks his own life to save non-combatants, the leader who ensures his followers escape safely before considering his own retreat. The armor worn by the Valkyries during these observation missions is crafted from materials that exist only in the divine realm, metals that can become invisible to mortal eyes while still providing complete protection against supernatural threats. The helmets they wear contain crystals that enhance their divine senses, allowing them to perceive not just physical actions, but the moral motivations that drive those actions. Through these enhanced perceptions, they can distinguish between warriors who fight for glory, those who fight for survival, and the rare few who fight genuinely to protect others. The weapons carried by the Valkyries serve multiple purposes beyond simple combat effectiveness. Their spears can pierce the veils between realms, allowing them to reach battlefields anywhere in the cosmos instantly. Their shields can deflect not just physical attacks but magical assaults that might interfere with their observations. Most importantly, their swords possess the power to sever the connection between soul and body at the moment of death, ensuring that chosen warriors can be transported to Valhalla before their spirits have time to depart for other afterlife destinations. The selection process is neither random nor arbitrary. Each Valkyrie has spent centuries studying the art of war and the nature of heroism, learning to read the signs that distinguish temporary courage born of desperation from the deep-seated bravery that will endure through eternity. They observe how warriors treat their enemies after victory, whether they show mercy to the defeated, and how they conduct themselves when they believe no one of importance is watching. The criteria for selection extend beyond individual combat prowess to include qualities of leadership, wisdom, and moral character that will be essential during the final battle. The Valkyries look for warriors who inspire confidence in their comrades, who make sound tactical decisions under pressure, and who maintain their principles even when victory could be achieved through dishonorable means. They understand that the army of Valhalla must be united not just by fighting ability, but by shared values that will sustain them through the ultimate test. A warrior might display tremendous skill with sword and shield, might lead successful charges against overwhelming odds, might even save the lives of dozens of his comrades through his tactical brilliance, yet still be passed over by the Valkyries if his motivations are selfish or his methods dishonorable. Conversely, a relatively modest fighter who consistently demonstrates genuine concern for others and unwavering commitment to protecting the innocent might be selected despite never achieving great fame or recognition. The Valkyries also consider the specific needs of Valhalla's eternal army when making their selections. Sometimes they seek warriors with particular skills, expert archers when the Einherjar need to strengthen their ranged capabilities, cavalry specialists when mounted warfare requires attention, or siege engineers when the army must prepare for assaults on fortified positions. Other times they look for warriors with specific personality traits that will help maintain unit cohesion and morale during the darkest moments of the final battle. The cultural and temporal diversity of the Einherjar is another factor that influences Valkyrie selection decisions. The chosen warriors come from every period of history and every corner of the 9 realms, creating a military force that incorporates the tactical innovations and fighting techniques of all cultures and ages. This diversity is not accidental but carefully planned, ensuring that the army of Valhalla will be prepared for any type of warfare that their enemies might employ. The moment of selection itself is a sacred ceremony that takes place in the seconds between a worthy warrior's mortal wound and his actual death. Time seems to slow and stretch as the chosen Valkyrie appears beside the falling hero, her armor gleaming with divine radiance and her wings spread wide to shelter him from the chaos of the continuing battle around them. The wings of a Valkyrie are not mere decorative features, but functional appendages that serve multiple purposes during the selection process. They can create protective barriers that shield the dying warrior from further harm, generate healing energies that sustain his life force during the transition to divine existence, and provide the supernatural lift needed to transport him to Valhalla. The feathers of these wings are said to contain the concentrated essence of courage itself, and a single feather given as a blessing can inspire extraordinary heroism in mortal warriors. The Valkyrie speaks the warrior's true name, not the name by which he was known in mortal life, but the name that describes his essential nature and the role he will play in the cosmic drama that is approaching its climax. This naming is both recognition and transformation, acknowledging what the warrior has been while simultaneously revealing what he is destined to become. The true names spoken by the Valkyries often surprise the chosen warriors, for they reflect qualities and potential that the heroes themselves may not have fully recognized. A warrior known for his ferocity in battle might receive a name that emphasizes his protective instincts, while a fighter famous for his tactical brilliance might be named for his compassion toward defeated enemies. These divine names become the warriors' identities in Valhalla, replacing their mortal appellations and connecting them to their eternal purpose. The touch of the Valkyrie's hand upon the warrior's brow brings instant healing of all wounds and restoration of strength. But more importantly, it brings understanding. The chosen warrior suddenly comprehends the true nature of his existence, the cosmic forces that have shaped his destiny, and the vital role he will play in defending the ordered universe against the return of primordial chaos. This moment of enlightenment can be overwhelming for newly chosen warriors, as their limited mortal perspective suddenly expands to encompass the full scope of cosmic conflict between order and chaos. The Valkyries are trained to guide their charges through this transformation, providing emotional support and spiritual guidance that helps the warriors adjust to their new existence and accept their eternal responsibilities. The transportation to Valhalla takes place on the back of the Valkyrie's 8-legged steed, one of the divine horses bred from Odin's own Mount Sleipnir. These creatures can gallop across the sky as easily as earthly horses run across solid ground, their hooves striking sparks from the clouds as they race toward the golden hall that awaits their passengers. The divine horses possess intelligence and personality that rivals that of their riders, understanding the sacred nature of their mission and the importance of delivering their charges safely to their eternal destination. They can navigate the complex pathways between realms instinctively, avoiding the various supernatural hazards that might impede or corrupt the transition from mortal to divine existence. During this supernatural journey, the newly chosen warrior experiences visions of the battles to come, glimpses of the role he will play in the final conflict between gods and giants, an understanding of why his particular skills and character traits have earned him a place among the most elite fighting force in all the 9 realms. These visions serve both to prepare him for his new existence and to help him appreciate the honor that has been bestowed upon him. The visions granted during this journey are carefully calibrated by the transporting Valkyrie to provide exactly the amount of information that each warrior can process without becoming overwhelmed. Some heroes are shown detailed tactical scenarios they will face during Ragnarok, while others receive more general impressions of their role in the cosmic struggle. The goal is always to prepare and inspire rather than to frighten or discourage. Not every warrior who dies bravely in battle is chosen for Valhalla. The goddess Freya, leader of the Vanir gods, has the right to claim half of all worthy battle dead for her own hall, Folkvanger. The division between these two destinations is based on subtle differences in the warriors' natures and the roles they will be expected to play in the final days. Those selected for Valhalla tend to be more aggressive and direct in their approach to conflict, while those chosen for Folkvanger often possess qualities of wisdom and patience that make them better suited for different aspects of the coming struggle. The relationship between the Valkyries who serve Odin and those who serve Freya is one of cooperation rather than competition. They share information about potential candidates and coordinate their selections to ensure that both halls receive the warriors best suited to their particular roles in the approaching crisis. This cooperation extends to joint training exercises and strategic planning sessions that prepare both groups of chosen warriors for the challenges they will face together. Daily life among the Einherjar. The rhythm of existence within Valhalla follows patterns established since the first worthy warrior was brought to the Golden Hall, routines that prepare the Einherjar both physically and spiritually for their ultimate destiny. Each day begins not with the rising of the sun, for Valhalla exists beyond the normal cycles of day and night, but with the sound of Gellerhorn, the great war horn that will one day announce the beginning of Ragnarok itself. This daily call to arms serves multiple purposes beyond simply rousing the warriors from their rest. The sound of the horn reminds each Einherjar of his sacred duty, connecting him to the cosmic purpose that gives meaning to his eternal existence. More practically, it begins each day with the same sound that will eventually summon them to their final battle, ensuring that when that ultimate moment arrives, their response will be immediate and instinctive. The horn itself is a masterwork of divine craftsmanship, carved from the tusk of a primordial beast that lived before the creation of the ordered cosmos. Its sound can penetrate any barrier and reach across any distance, ensuring that no Einherjar can fail to hear its call regardless of where he might be within the vast expanse of Valhalla. The different notes and rhythms of the horn's daily calls convey specific information about the day's planned activities, allowing the warriors to prepare themselves appropriately for training, feasting, or strategic planning sessions. The Einherjar rise from beds crafted from shields and weapons taken from the greatest battlefields of the 9 realms. These are not merely symbolic furnishings, but functional reminders of their warrior nature. The pillow beneath a hero's head might be the helm of a giant king he defeated in single combat, while the blanket that covers him could be woven from the banner he carried through a dozen victorious campaigns. Each sleeping alcove within Valhalla is personalized to reflect the individual character and achievements of its occupant. Warriors who distinguish themselves as cavalry leaders sleep beneath representations of their favorite war horses, while those who excelled at siege warfare rest surrounded by miniature models of the fortifications they captured or defended. These personal touches help maintain the individuality and unique history of each Einherjar, while also serving as constant reminders of the skills and experiences they bring to the collective strength of the Eternal Army. The bedding itself possesses properties that enhance the rest and recovery of the divine warriors. Pillows filled with down from the legendary ravens Hugin and Munin provide sleep that strengthens memory and sharpens tactical thinking. Blankets woven from the wool of celestial sheep offer dreams that reveal glimpses of future battles and possible strategies for victory. These supernatural sleeping aids ensure that even rest becomes a form of preparation for the challenges that lie ahead. Morning preparations involve the donning of divine armor that never tarnishes, never breaks, and always fits perfectly regardless of how the warrior's form might change through eternal training and conditioning. This armor is not assigned randomly but chosen specifically for each Einherjar based on his preferred fighting style and the role he will play in the final battle. Some warriors receive heavy mail that covers them from head to toe, while others are given lighter gear that allows for greater mobility and speed. The process of arming each morning is itself a ritual that reinforces the sacred nature of the Einherjar's mission. Each piece of armor is blessed with runes that enhance its protective qualities and connect it to the cosmic forces that the warriors serve. The helmet protects not just the head but the mind within, shielding thoughts from supernatural influence. The breastplate guards not just the heart but the courage and compassion that drive heroic action. Every strap and buckle serves both practical and spiritual purposes. The weapons available to the Einherjar represent the finest examples of martial craft from across all the 9 realms and throughout all of history. Swords forged by the gods themselves hang alongside axes crafted by legendary dwarf smiths. Spears blessed by ancient shamans rest next to bows strung with hair from divine horses. Each warrior may choose weapons that complement his natural abilities and training, though many experiment with different combinations to expand their tactical options. The Armory of Valhalla contains weapons that exist nowhere else in the 9 realms, tools of war created specifically for the unique challenges that will be faced during Ragnarok. Some swords can cut through the magical protections that shield giants and monsters from conventional attacks. Certain spears never miss their targets, no matter how distant or well defended. Special arrows can pierce the scales of dragons and the hide of primordial beasts that no mortal weapon could harm. Training begins immediately after the morning preparations and continues until the evening feast. The practice fields of Valhalla stretch across distances that encompass multiple mortal kingdoms, providing space for every conceivable form of combat exercise. Here, Roman legionnaires drill alongside Viking berserkers, Spartan hoplites train with Celtic warriors, and champions from cultures that never encountered each other in mortal life learn to fight as unified units. The diversity of fighting styles and tactical approaches represented among the Einherjar creates training opportunities that would be impossible in any single mortal culture. Warriors learn to adapt their techniques to work effectively alongside comrades who fight in completely different ways, developing the flexibility and understanding that will be essential when facing the varied threats of the final battle. The training itself is overseen by the greatest military minds in history, Einherjar, who demonstrated exceptional leadership and tactical brilliance during their mortal lives. These eternal drill masters understand that the final battle will require not just individual prowess but coordinated group tactics on a scale that dwarfs any conflict ever fought in the mortal realm. These commanders bring to their teaching roles the accumulated wisdom of countless campaigns and conflicts. They understand how to motivate warriors from different cultural backgrounds, how to merge incompatible fighting styles into effective combined arms tactics, and how to maintain unit cohesion under the extreme stress of supernatural warfare. Their lessons incorporate not just technical military skills, but the psychological and spiritual preparation needed to face enemies that embody the forces of chaos and dissolution. Combat practice in Valhalla differs fundamentally from mortal training in that the Einherjar can engage in full-contact battle without fear of permanent injury or death. When a warrior falls in the practice yards with his throat cut or his skull split open, he rises within moments fully healed and ready to continue the fight. This allows for training intensity that would be impossible in the mortal world, where the risk of injury or death necessarily limits how realistic practice combat can become. The healing that takes place after training injuries is not merely magical restoration, but a process that actually strengthens the Einherjar over time. Each wound received and healed adds to their understanding of combat dynamics and their resistance to similar injuries in the future. Warriors who have been killed hundreds of times in training develop instinctive reactions and defensive techniques that make them nearly impossible to defeat through conventional means. Yet this divine resilience does not diminish the seriousness with which the Einherjar approach their training. They understand that while their practice wounds heal instantly, the skills and instincts they develop through constant combat will determine their effectiveness when they face enemies who will not be so easily defeated. Each practice session is conducted with the understanding that mistakes made in the final battle will have consequences that no amount of divine healing can repair. The psychological aspect of training receives equal attention with the physical conditioning. The Einherjar practice maintaining their courage and clarity of thought under conditions of extreme stress, learning to function effectively even when faced with enemies whose very presence induces supernatural terror. They train to resist magical attacks that target the mind and spirit rather than the body, developing mental defenses that will be crucial when facing opponents who wield fear and despair as weapons. The Eternal Feast. As the training day draws to its close, the Einherjar set aside their weapons and gather in the great hall for the evening feast that has become one of the most celebrated aspects of life in Valhalla. This daily banquet is far more than simple sustenance for the chosen warriors. It is a sacred ritual that reinforces their bonds of brotherhood, celebrates their heroic nature, and prepares them spiritually for their ultimate destiny. The feast begins with the preparation of Saehrimnir, the divine boar whose flesh feeds all the Einherjar every single evening without ever being diminished or depleted. This magical creature represents the abundance that awaits those who have proven themselves worthy through courage and sacrifice, a promise that those who give everything in service of others will themselves lack for nothing in return. The boar itself is a magnificent beast, larger than any mortal pig yet possessing an intelligence and nobility that sets it apart from ordinary animals. Its tusks gleam like polished ivory, and its bristles shine with a golden radiance that reflects its divine nature. When it moves through the kitchens of Valhalla, its presence brings a sense of peace and contentment that prepares both cooks and diners for the sacred meal that is to come. Each evening, the boar is prepared by Andrimnir, the divine cook whose culinary skills surpass anything ever achieved in mortal kitchens. The preparation itself is a ritual watched by many of the Einherjar, who appreciate not just the skill involved but the symbolic significance of the daily renewal. Saramir dies each evening to provide sustenance for the warriors, then is reborn each morning to repeat the cycle, a perfect metaphor for the warrior's own relationship with death and renewal. Andrimner's cooking techniques incorporate methods unknown to mortal chefs, using fires that burn with the essence of stellar fusion and spices that exist only in the divine realm. The knives he wields were forged from the same metals used to create the weapons of the gods, ensuring that every cut is perfect and that no portion of the sacred meat is wasted. His skills extend beyond mere cooking to encompass a deep understanding of how food can nourish not just the body but the soul and spirit as well. The meat that results from this divine preparation possesses qualities unknown in the mortal realm. It satisfies not just physical hunger but spiritual needs as well, providing the Einherjar with the essential nourishment required to maintain their supernatural strength and endurance. More importantly, it tastes exactly as each warrior desires it to taste, reflecting the perfect hospitality that Odin provides for his chosen champions. This miraculous property of the divine food extends beyond simple flavor preferences to encompass the deeper psychological and emotional needs of the Einherjar. Warriors who died far from home find in each bite the taste of their mother's cooking and the comfort of familiar foods from their mortal lives. Those who fell in foreign lands experience flavors that remind them of their native cultures and the communities they died to protect. Accompanying the feast is mead that flows endlessly from the udders of the goat Heidrun, who feeds upon the leaves of Lerad, a tree that grows atop Valhalla's roof. This divine beverage possesses the power to enhance memory, courage, and fellowship among those who drink it. The mead helps the Einherjar remember not just their own heroic deeds, but the deeds of all their fellows, creating a shared pool of experience and wisdom that strengthens the entire brotherhood. The goat Heidrun is itself a creature of wonder, larger than any mortal goat yet possessing a grace and beauty that speaks to its divine nature. Its golden horns spiral in patterns that mirror the mathematical principles underlying the structure of the cosmos, while its eyes hold depths of wisdom that rival those of the gods themselves. When it moves about the roof of Valhalla, feeding on the eternal tree, its hoofsteps create gentle music that can be heard throughout the hall below. The tree Lerad from which Heidrun feeds is no ordinary plant but a smaller reflection of Yggdrasil itself, the world tree that connects all the 9 realms. Its leaves contain the concentrated essence of life and growth from across the entire cosmos, making them the perfect food for a creature whose milk must nourish the greatest warriors in existence. The tree never grows smaller despite the goat's constant feeding, for it draws its substance from the same cosmic forces that sustain the world tree itself. The serving of the feast is performed by the Valkyries themselves, the same divine maidens who selected these warriors from the battlefields of the 9 realms. This service is not menial labor but a continuation of their role as guardians and guides for the chosen slain. As they move among the tables with horns of mead and platters of divine meat, they share news from the outside world, offer counsel on matters of tactics and strategy, and provide the personal attention that helps each warrior maintain his connection to the larger cosmic purpose he serves. The Valkyries' presence during the feast serves multiple purposes beyond the practical aspects of food service. They act as living links between the Einherjar and the ongoing conflicts throughout the 9 realms, bringing reports of battles won and lost, heroes newly fallen, and threats that continue to emerge. Their perspectives help the chosen warriors understand how their eventual participation in Ragnarok fits into the larger pattern of cosmic conflict that has shaped the history of all existence. Each Valkyrie specializes in observing particular types of conflict and specific regions of the 9 realms, making them repositories of tactical and strategic knowledge that proves invaluable to the Einherjar's continuing education. Those who monitor siege warfare bring detailed accounts of new defensive innovations and assault techniques, while others who observe naval conflicts share insights about ship design and marine tactics that may prove relevant during the final battle. The seating arrangements within the Great Hall reflect both the democratic nature of heroism and the hierarchical reality of military organization. While all Einherjar are equal in their basic status as chosen warriors, those who have demonstrated exceptional leadership, tactical brilliance, or extraordinary courage are seated closer to Odin's high throne, where they can more easily participate in strategic discussions and planning sessions. The tables themselves are crafted from wood taken from trees that grew on legendary battlefields, each plank bearing the invisible marks of the heroic deeds performed in its vicinity. The benches are carved from stone quarried from the mountains of Jotunheim, materials that have witnessed the conflicts between gods and giants since the beginning of time. Sitting at these tables therefore connects each warrior to the long history of conflict between order and chaos that gives meaning to their eternal mission. Yet even the most recently arrived warriors are treated with full honor and respect, for each has proven his worth through the ultimate test of dying gloriously in battle. The veteran Einherjar understand that courage and honor are not diminished by lack of experience, and they welcome newcomers with the enthusiasm of soldiers greeting reinforcements before a crucial campaign. The integration of new arrivals into the established community of Valhalla follows traditions that have evolved over millennia of practice. Veteran warriors take personal responsibility for mentoring newcomers, helping them adjust to their divine existence and understand the expectations of their new role. These mentoring relationships often evolve into profound friendships that span the remainder of the warrior's eternal existence. The conversations that flow around the feast tables cover every conceivable aspect of warfare, strategy, and heroic conduct. Veterans of ancient battles share tactical insights with warriors from more recent conflicts, creating a constantly evolving understanding of military science that incorporates lessons learned across all of history. Roman centurions discuss formation fighting with Saxon shield wall specialists, while Viking longship captains exchange naval tactics with Phoenician sea raiders. These discussions are not merely academic exercises but practical preparation for the challenges that await during Ragnarok. The Einherjar understand that their enemies will include not just traditional opponents like giants and monsters, but supernatural forces that may require completely new approaches to combat. By combining the wisdom of warriors from every culture and era, they develop tactical flexibility that will serve them well when facing the unprecedented challenges of the final battle. The language barriers that might normally impede such cross-cultural exchanges are eliminated by the divine nature of Valhalla itself. The mead and the sacred atmosphere of the hall create a state of perfect communication where meaning is conveyed directly from mind to mind, allowing warriors who spoke completely different languages in life to share their knowledge and experiences without any linguistic confusion. Music plays an essential role in the evening feast, with skilled skalds and bards recounting the heroic deeds of the Einherjar themselves. These are not mere entertainments but sacred recitations that preserve the memory of courage and ensure that the greatest examples of heroic conduct remain fresh in the minds of all who hear them. When a warrior hears his own deeds sung in the Golden Hall, he is reminded of the standards he has achieved and inspired to maintain those standards throughout his eternal service. The musical traditions of Valhalla incorporate elements from every culture that has produced worthy warriors, creating compositions that blend Celtic harps with Germanic war drums, Roman brass instruments with Slavic stringed instruments, and vocal techniques from across the entire spectrum of human musical expression. These fusion compositions create new forms of beauty that transcend any single cultural tradition while honoring the contributions of all. The songs also serve to educate newer arrivals about the traditions and expectations of Valhalla. Through hearing the stories of their predecessors, recently chosen warriors learn what behaviors are valued, what attitudes are expected, and what level of performance is required to maintain their place among the elite of the elite. The musical education continues throughout each warrior's eternal existence, ensuring that the lessons of the past remain constantly available to guide future actions. The mead that flows so freely during these feasts possesses another important quality. It creates bonds of fellowship that transcend the cultural and temporal differences that might otherwise divide the Einherjar. Warriors who spoke different languages in life find that the divine drink allows them to communicate perfectly with their fellows, while those whose peoples were ancient enemies discover that their shared status as chosen slain creates loyalties stronger than any earthly enmity. The chemical properties of the divine mead work at levels deeper than mere intoxication, actually altering the neural pathways of those who consume it to enhance their capacity for empathy, courage, and tactical thinking. Regular consumption over the course of eternal existence gradually transforms the Einherjar into beings who combine the best qualities of their individual mortal personalities with enhanced abilities that prepare them for their cosmic role. As the evening progresses, the conversations often turn to philosophical and spiritual matters. The Einherjar discuss the nature of courage, the meaning of honor, and the relationship between individual achievement and collective responsibility. These discussions help maintain the moral clarity that distinguishes true heroes from mere fighters, ensuring that the warriors of Valhalla never lose sight of the values that earned them their place in the Golden Hall. The philosophical traditions represented among the Einherjar span the entire range of human thought about ethics, duty, and the meaning of existence. Stoic philosophers from the Roman world engage in dialogue with Buddhist warriors from the distant East, while Celtic druids share mystical insights with Germanic shamans and Christian knights. These exchanges create new synthesis of wisdom that incorporates the best insights from all traditions while remaining grounded in the practical needs of warriors preparing for ultimate battle. Games of skill and chance provide additional entertainment during the feast, though even these recreational activities serve educational purposes. Strategic board games help maintain tactical thinking skills, while contests of strength and dexterity keep the warriors' competitive instincts sharp. Even their leisure activities are chosen to reinforce the qualities that will be needed when they finally march to war. The games played in Valhalla include both familiar contests from the warriors' mortal lives and new challenges created specifically for their divine existence. Chess variants that incorporate three-dimensional movement prepare players for aerial combat against flying enemies, while martial arts competitions that allow the use of supernatural abilities help warriors understand the capabilities they will possess during the final battle. The feast concludes each evening with a ritual toast to Odin All-Father and a collective pledge of readiness for the final battle. This ceremony serves to remind every Einherjar of his sacred duty, while also reinforcing the bonds of loyalty that unite them all under their divine commander. As the warriors raise their horns in unison, Their voices merge into a sound like distant thunder, a promise that when the time comes, they will answer the call with the same unity and determination they display in this nightly ritual. Training for the final battle. The knowledge that their existence in Valhalla is ultimately preparation for Ragnarok infuses every aspect of the Einherjar's eternal routine with profound purpose and urgency. While they may have eternity to prepare, they also understand that the final battle, when it comes, will be unlike any conflict ever fought in the history of the Nine Realms. Their training must therefore transcend traditional military preparation to address challenges that have never before been faced by any warrior, mortal, or divine. The Einherjar train not just as individual fighters, but as components of a vast military machine designed to hold back the forces of chaos and destruction that will threaten to unmake the ordered universe. This requires a level of coordination and discipline that goes far beyond what any mortal army has ever achieved. Each warrior must be capable of fighting effectively on his own, while simultaneously functioning as part of larger tactical units that may include hundreds or thousands of his fellows. The training exercises designed to develop this dual capability are both physically demanding and intellectually challenging. Warriors practice complex battlefield maneuvers that require split-second timing and perfect coordination between units separated by vast distances. They learn to interpret and respond to dozens of different horn calls, banner signals, and other forms of battlefield communication that will allow their commanders to coordinate actions across the enormous scale of the final battle. The communication systems used in Valhalla's training incorporate both traditional military signals and supernatural methods unique to divine warfare. Horn calls that can be heard across multiple realms simultaneously allow for coordination on a cosmic scale, while runic banners that change their messages based on tactical conditions provide real-time intelligence updates to field commanders. The Einherjar must master all these systems until their responses become instinctive. Mock battles are conducted with a realism and intensity that would be impossible in any mortal context. Units of Einherjar face off against opponents playing the roles of giants, monsters, and other supernatural enemies, using their divine resilience to engage in full-contact combat that would be lethal to mortal warriors. These exercises allow them to develop tactics specifically designed for fighting opponents larger, stronger, or more magically powerful than themselves. The mock enemies used in these training exercises are themselves works of divine craftsmanship, magical constructs that perfectly simulate the abilities and behaviors of the actual foes the Einherjar will face during Ragnarok. Giant simulacra tower over the practice fields with the same proportions and strength as their living counterparts, while dragon constructs breathe real fire and poison that test the warrior's defensive capabilities under completely realistic conditions. The training grounds of Valhalla have been specially constructed to simulate the conditions expected during Ragnarok. Some areas are perpetually frozen to represent the endless winter that will precede the final battle, forcing the Einherjar to learn to fight effectively in conditions of extreme cold and on treacherous ice-covered terrain. Other sections burn with eternal fires that simulate the flames that will consume the world tree, teaching the warriors to maintain their formation and effectiveness even when surrounded by supernatural conflagration. The frozen training areas incorporate challenges that go beyond simple cold weather fighting. Ice that actively attempts to entrap warriors' feet, snow that obscures vision with supernatural density, and winds that carry voices designed to confuse and disorient all feature in these realistic training scenarios. The Einherjar learn to overcome these obstacles through a combination of physical conditioning, mental discipline, and tactical adaptation. The fire zones present equally complex challenges, with flames that burn at temperatures unknown in the mortal realm and smoke that carries hallucinogenic properties designed to test the warrior's ability to maintain their sanity under extreme conditions. Some fires burn with supernatural colors that can blind unprepared observers, while others consume oxygen at accelerated rates that require special breathing techniques to survive. Poisonous mists drift across certain training areas, representing the toxic breath of Jormungandr and other serpentine enemies that will be encountered during the final conflict. The Einherjar practice fighting while holding their breath, learn to recognize the signs of different types of poison, and develop techniques for protecting their comrades from toxic attacks. These exercises are particularly crucial given that the prophecies indicate many warriors will fall to poison rather than to conventional weapons. The various poisons used in training represent every known toxin from across the 9 realms, plus several that exist only in the divine sphere. Warriors learn to identify poisonous substances by smell, color, and even the subtle changes in air pressure that often accompany their presence. They practice administering antidotes under combat conditions and develop techniques for fighting effectively even when partially poisoned themselves. The weapons training in Valhalla incorporates not just traditional martial skills, but also techniques for fighting supernatural opponents with unusual vulnerabilities or resistances. Some giants can only be harmed by weapons forged with specific metals or blessed with particular runes, while certain monsters are vulnerable only to attacks delivered in specific ways or at particular times. The Einherjar study these exotic combat techniques with the same dedication they bring to mastering sword and spear. The specialized weapons crafted for use against supernatural enemies often incorporate materials and techniques that would be impossible in mortal smithcraft. Blades forged from crystallized starlight can cut through the magical protections that shield many divine beings, while arrows tipped with fragments of the world tree can pierce the hide of creatures that have made themselves immune to conventional weapons. Magic plays a role in the training as well, for the final battle will involve supernatural forces that mundane weapons cannot always affect. While not all Einherjar possess magical abilities, they all learn to recognize magical attacks, understand the basic principles of runic magic, and work effectively alongside those comrades who do wield supernatural powers. This magical education ensures that the army of Valhalla can function as a unified force, even when facing enemies whose abilities transcend the physical realm. The magical training encompasses both defensive and offensive applications. Warriors learn to create protective wards that can deflect curses and supernatural attacks, while also mastering techniques for disrupting enemy magic and turning hostile spells back upon their casters. Those Einherjar who show particular aptitude for magical work receive advanced training that allows them to serve as combat sorcerers during the final battle. The psychological preparation for Ragnarok is perhaps even more important than the physical training. The Einherjar must be mentally prepared to fight in a battle where victory, in the traditional sense, is impossible. The prophecies are clear that the final conflict will result in the destruction of the current cosmic order, including the death of many gods and the end of Asgard itself. The warriors must be prepared to fight with full courage and determination, even while knowing that their ultimate fate is defeat and death. This psychological preparation involves extensive study of the prophecies themselves, ensuring that every Einherjar understands exactly what role he will play in the cosmic drama that is approaching its climax. Rather than being demoralized by the knowledge of their destined fate, the warriors are inspired by understanding the cosmic significance of their sacrifice. They will die not in vain, but as part of a necessary cleansing that will allow a new and better world to emerge from the ashes of the old. The philosophical framework that supports this acceptance of destined defeat draws upon wisdom traditions from across all the cultures represented among the Einherjar. Stoic concepts of duty regardless of outcome combine with Germanic ideas about honor in the face of inevitable doom, while Eastern concepts of cycles of destruction and renewal provide context for understanding why the current world must end for a better one to begin. The Einherjar also train in leadership and command, for the final battle will require tactical flexibility and initiative at every level of the military hierarchy. Every warrior learns to take command when circumstances require it, to make split-second decisions under extreme pressure, and to inspire his comrades to superhuman effort when the situation demands it. This distributed leadership ensures that the army of Valhalla will continue to function effectively even if it's senior. The leadership training incorporates lessons learned from the greatest military commanders in history, with Einherjar who distinguished themselves as generals and kings in mortal life, sharing their knowledge with warriors who showed leadership potential but died before achieving high command. These intensive seminars in tactical and strategic thinking ensure that every member of the Eternal Army understands the principles of effective military leadership. Strategic planning sessions involve all the Einherjar, not just the senior commanders, for the final battle will be too vast and complex for any single military mind to control completely. Warriors study maps of the prophesied battlefield, learn the likely deployment patterns of enemy forces, and discuss contingency plans for the various scenarios that might develop during the conflict. This comprehensive strategic education ensures that every Einherjar understands not just his own role but how that role fits into the larger tactical picture. The maps used in these strategic planning sessions are themselves marvels of divine cartography, showing not just the physical terrain where Ragnarok will unfold, but also the spiritual and magical dimensions that will affect the course of the battle. These multidimensional charts allow the Einherjar to understand how movements in one realm will affect conditions in others, and how the collapse of certain magical barriers will alter the tactical situation throughout the conflict. The training also includes preparation for fighting alongside divine allies who will join the battle. The Einherjar practice coordinated tactics with the gods themselves, learning to support and complement the supernatural abilities of their divine commanders. These exercises require careful coordination, for the power levels involved can be dangerous even to the chosen slain if proper precautions are not observed. Training alongside the gods provides the Einherjar with insights into levels of power and ability that far exceed anything they experienced in mortal life. They learn to fight in the presence of divine radiance that could blind unprepared eyes, to coordinate with allies who can move at supernatural speeds, and to take advantage of the reality-altering abilities that the gods can bring to bear against their enemies. Perhaps most importantly, the training in Valhalla emphasizes the values and principles that distinguish the forces of order from the armies of chaos they will face. The Einherjar are reminded constantly that they fight not for conquest or glory, but for the preservation of justice, mercy, and the protection of the innocent. This moral foundation ensures that even in the midst of cosmic war, they will conduct themselves with the honor that earned them their place in the Golden Hall. The ethical education of the Einherjar draws upon the moral traditions of every culture that has produced worthy warriors, creating a comprehensive code of conduct that transcends any single system of values, while incorporating the best insights from all. This universal warrior ethic helps maintain unit cohesion among fighters from radically different backgrounds while ensuring that their methods remain consistent with their ultimate goals. The Songs of Memory. In the quiet hours between the evening feast and the dawn call to training, when the aurora light dims to its softest glow and the great hall settles into peaceful contemplation, the Einherjar gather to share the songs and stories that preserve the memory of their deeds and the wisdom of ages past. These musical traditions serve as more than entertainment. They are the living library of heroism, the collective memory of courage that spans all cultures and all times. The songs of Valhalla are performed not by professional entertainers but by the warriors themselves, each one contributing the musical traditions of his own people and time to the ever-growing repertoire of the eternal army. Viking skalds share the stage with Celtic bards, Germanic singers stand alongside Roman poets, and the musical heritage of every culture finds its voice in the Golden Hall. These performances serve multiple purposes within the community of the chosen slain. They preserve the individual identities and cultural heritage of warriors who might otherwise lose themselves in the collective identity of the eternal army. They educate newcomers about the traditions and expectations of Valhalla, while also teaching valuable lessons about courage, honor, and sacrifice. Most importantly, they maintain the emotional and spiritual bonds that unite the Einherjar across all the barriers of time, culture, and personal history. The most powerful of these musical performances are the songs that tell the stories of the Einherjar themselves, preserving for eternity the deeds that earned them their place in Valhalla. When a warrior hears his own exploits sung in the divine hall, the experience serves both as recognition of his achievement and as reminder of the standards he must continue to uphold throughout his eternal service. These personal songs are not mere recitations of facts but artistic interpretations that capture the spiritual essence of heroic action. They focus not just on the external events of battles and campaigns but on the internal struggles, the moral choices, and the moments of transcendent courage that distinguish true heroes from mere fighters. Through these songs, the Einherjar learn to see their own experiences as part of the larger tapestry of heroism that gives meaning to their existence. The composition of new songs follows ancient traditions that have evolved over millennia of practice in Valhalla. Veteran warriors with particular skill in music and poetry work with newcomers to craft verses that accurately capture the essence of their deeds, while also fitting into the established musical traditions of the hall. This collaborative process helps integrate new arrivals into the community, while also ensuring that their unique contributions are properly recognized and preserved. The musical instruments used in these performances represent the finest examples of their type from across all the 9 realms and throughout all of history. Harps strung with hair from divine horses produce tones of supernatural beauty, while drums crafted from the hide of legendary beasts provide rhythms that can stir the hearts of gods. Horns forged from materials that exist only in the divine realm add their voices to compositions that transcend anything possible in mortal music. Some of the instruments possess magical properties that enhance the storytelling power of the songs performed upon them. Certain harps can make their music visible as patterns of light that illustrate the events being described, while specific drums can cause listeners to experience the emotions felt by the heroes whose deeds are being recounted. These supernatural enhancements ensure that the educational value of the musical performances is maximized. The songs also serve as vehicles for preserving tactical and strategic knowledge that might otherwise be lost over the centuries of preparation for Ragnarok. Battle hymns that describe successful tactics against giant armies provide educational content disguised as entertainment, while laments for fallen heroes often contain detailed analyses of what went wrong in failed campaigns and how similar mistakes might be avoided in the future. The repertoire of Valhalla includes songs in languages that have been dead for millennia in the mortal world, preserved in perfect form by the supernatural memory of the Einherjar who once spoke them. These ancient tongues carry concepts and ideas that have no equivalent in later languages, providing access to ways of thinking about courage and honor that might otherwise be lost forever. The musical traditions also incorporate songs that look forward to the future rather than backward to the past. Prophetic verses describe the coming battle of Ragnarok in terms that help the Einherjar understand their roles in the cosmic drama, while also preparing them emotionally for the challenges they will face. These future-focused songs serve as both inspiration and practical preparation for the ultimate test that awaits them. Perhaps most remarkably, some of the songs performed in Valhalla describe events that have not yet occurred, visions of possible futures that the most gifted seers among the Einherjar have received through dreams and supernatural inspiration. These prophetic compositions help the warriors prepare for contingencies that might develop during the final battle, providing them with mental frameworks for understanding and responding to unexpected developments. The daily cycle of musical performance follows patterns that reinforce the military discipline and spiritual preparation of the Einherjar. Morning songs energize the warriors for their training, inspiring them with tales of great victories and legendary feats of arms. Evening performances focus on more contemplative themes, helping the fighters process the lessons of their training, while also maintaining their connection to the larger purposes they serve. The seasonal cycles of Valhalla, though different from those of the mortal world, also influence the musical traditions of the hall. During periods when the aurora light burns with particularly intense colors, the songs tend toward themes of battle and conflict, preparing the Einherjar for the possibility that Ragnarok might be approaching. When the divine illumination settles into calmer patterns, the music becomes more reflective, focusing on themes of brotherhood, memory, and the preservation of wisdom. The wisdom of ages. Between the hours of intensive physical training and the communal bonding of the evening feast, the Einherjar dedicate substantial time to intellectual pursuits that keep their minds sharp and their understanding of their cosmic role clear. The libraries of Valhalla contain the accumulated wisdom of every culture that has ever produced worthy warriors, creating repositories of knowledge that surpass anything available in the mortal realm. The collection includes not just written works but also oral traditions, preserved in perfect form by the supernatural memory of warriors who carried them into battle and death. Epic poems that were lost when entire civilizations fell, tactical manuals that were destroyed when cities burned, and philosophical works that existed only in the minds of their creators, all find preservation in the eternal libraries of the Golden Hall. The librarians of Valhalla are Einherjar who distinguish themselves as scholars and teachers during their mortal lives, warriors who combined intellectual brilliance with the physical courage that earned them their place among the chosen slain. These learned fighters understand that knowledge is as important as strength in preparing for the final battle, and they work tirelessly to ensure that the wisdom of ages remains accessible to all who seek it. The organization of the libraries reflects the complex nature of the knowledge they contain. Physical books and scrolls are arranged not just by subject matter, but by the cosmic principles they illuminate, creating connections between apparently unrelated works that reveal deeper truths about the nature of existence. Military treatises rest beside philosophical works that share their insights about courage, while historical chronicles are grouped with mythological tales that contain similar lessons about the eternal struggle between order and chaos. The reading rooms of Valhalla are designed to enhance comprehension and retention of the materials studied within them. The aurora light that provides illumination can be adjusted to frequencies that improve mental clarity and focus, while the furniture is crafted from woods that possess properties conducive to deep thinking and prolonged concentration. Even the air within these spaces is subtly enhanced with fragrances that stimulate memory and intellectual activity. Study groups form naturally among the Einherjar based on shared interests, tactical specializations, or complementary areas of expertise. Roman engineers work with Germanic craftsmen to develop new siege techniques, while Celtic druids share mystical insights with Slavic shamans and Norse seers. These intellectual collaborations often produce innovations that will prove crucial during the final battle. The philosophical education available in Valhalla encompasses every tradition of human thought about ethics, duty, and the meaning of existence. The Einherjar study not just the military applications of wisdom, but also the deeper questions about why their fight matters and what principles should guide their conduct even in the midst of cosmic war. This moral education ensures that they remain heroes rather than mere fighters throughout their eternal service. Debates and discussions are encouraged among the warriors, for the exchange of ideas strengthens understanding and reveals weaknesses in reasoning that might prove dangerous during actual combat. The intellectual culture of Valhalla values rigorous thinking and honest disagreement over comfortable consensus, ensuring that the Einherjar's preparation includes mental conditioning as well as physical training. The scientific knowledge preserved in Valhalla's libraries includes not just mortal understanding, but also divine insights into the fundamental principles that govern the operation of the cosmos. The Einherjar study astronomy that encompasses all 9 realms, physics that explains the interaction between matter and spirit, and mathematics that describes the underlying patterns of fate and prophecy. This advanced education serves practical purposes in preparing for Ragnarok, as the final battle will involve forces and phenomena that operate according to cosmic laws rather than mundane physics. Understanding how divine power interacts with physical matter, how prophecy influences probability, and how the collapse of cosmic order will affect the basic rules of existence becomes crucial knowledge for warriors who must fight effectively under conditions that transcend normal reality. The magical education available to the Einherjar goes far beyond simple spellcasting to encompass deep understanding of the fundamental forces that shape reality across all the 9 realms. Even warriors who possess no personal magical abilities learn to recognize different types of supernatural power, understand how magical protections function, and coordinate effectively with spellcasting allies. Maps and charts available in Valhalla's libraries detail not just the physical geography of the 9 realms, but also the spiritual and magical territories that overlay the material world. These multidimensional guides help the Einherjar understand how events in one realm affect conditions in others, and how the approaching crisis of Ragnarok will manifest differently across various levels of reality. Historical study receives particular emphasis in the educational program of Valhalla, as understanding the patterns of past conflicts helps prepare for the unique challenges of the final battle. The Einherjar study not just military history, but also the social, political, and spiritual factors that have shaped the eternal struggle between order and chaos throughout the ages. Legacy of the Hall of Heroes. The influence of Valhalla extends far beyond its golden walls and the warriors who dwell within them. Throughout history, the concept of the Hall of the Slain has shaped the values, aspirations, and conduct of countless mortals who sought to prove themselves worthy of admission to this most exclusive of brotherhoods. The promise of eternal glory for those who die courageously in defense of others has inspired acts of heroism that echo across the centuries, creating ripple effects that continue to influence human culture and values even in the modern age. In the mortal realm, warriors would speak the name of Valhalla before charging into hopeless battles, finding in that word the courage to face overwhelming odds with unwavering determination. Mothers would tell their sons stories of the Einherjar, teaching them that true strength lay not in avoiding death but in choosing how to die when death became inevitable. These stories served not to glorify violence but to emphasize the values of sacrifice, protection of the innocent, and standing firm in defense of what is right regardless of the personal cost. The educational impact of these tales extended far beyond military applications to influence the moral development of entire societies. Children who grew up hearing stories of Valhalla learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the willingness to act righteously despite fear, that true strength came from protecting others rather than dominating them, and that the measure of a life was found not in its length but in the nobility of its purpose. The influence of Valhalla can be seen in the development of martial codes throughout Norse culture and beyond. The concept of dying gloriously in battle while protecting others became a central tenet of warrior ethics, shaping everything from the conduct of individual fighters to the strategic decisions of kings and generals. The promise of eternal fellowship with history's greatest heroes provided a powerful incentive for courage and honorable conduct that transcended immediate concerns about survival or material reward. These warrior codes evolved beyond simple military applications to become comprehensive systems of ethics that governed all aspects of life. The ideals of courage, honor, and sacrifice that originated in the martial sphere expanded to influence how people approached their civilian occupations, their family relationships, and their civic responsibilities. The concept that one's actions might earn eternal recognition among heroes created standards of conduct that elevated entire cultures. The stories of specific Einherjar became legendary throughout the mortal world, serving as examples of the kind of courage and dedication that earned admission to the Golden Hall. These tales were passed down through generations, inspiring new warriors to emulate the heroic deeds of their predecessors. Each generation thus built upon the achievements of those who came before, creating an ever-rising standard of heroic conduct that pushed the boundaries of what mortals thought possible. The biographical traditions that grew up around these legendary figures often emphasized not just their martial achievements but their moral character, their protection of the weak, and their willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. These stories served as both entertainment and moral education, providing concrete examples of how abstract virtues could be expressed through practical action in difficult circumstances. The architectural influence of Valhalla can be traced through the great halls and feast houses constructed by Norse kings and chieftains. These earthly buildings attempted to capture some small portion of the grandeur of the divine hall, creating spaces where warriors could gather to share stories, plan campaigns, and reinforce the bonds of fellowship that would sustain them in battle. While no mortal construction could match the supernatural magnificence of Valhalla itself, these halls served as important reminders of the values and aspirations that connected earthly warriors to their divine counterparts. The design principles derived from descriptions of Valhalla influenced not just Norse architecture but building traditions throughout the medieval world. The emphasis on creating spaces that honored warriors and celebrated martial virtue led to architectural innovations that served both practical and symbolic purposes, creating environments that inspired courage and reinforced social bonds among fighting men. The concept of the eternal feast also influenced mortal hospitality customs, particularly the treatment of warriors and heroes. The idea that courage should be rewarded with generosity, that those who risk their lives for others deserve the finest food and drink available, became deeply embedded in Norse culture. This tradition ensured that warriors were properly honored for their service, while also encouraging others to aspire to similar levels of courage and dedication. These hospitality traditions extended beyond simple material generosity to encompass emotional and spiritual support for those who bore the burden of defending their communities. The concept that warriors deserved not just physical sustenance but also recognition, companionship, and understanding helped create social structures that sustained military effectiveness while also maintaining the morale and psychological health of fighting forces. The military traditions influenced by Valhalla extended beyond simple tactics and techniques to encompass the entire philosophy of warfare. The emphasis on dying well rather than merely surviving shaped strategic thinking, encouraging commanders to accept higher casualties in exchange for achieving more decisive victories. This approach often resulted in conflicts that were shorter but more intense, with both sides understanding that reputation and honor were more important than mere survival. The tactical innovations that emerged from this philosophical approach to warfare included new formations and strategies, designed to maximize the heroic potential of individual warriors while also achieving practical military objectives. These developments influenced the evolution of medieval combat throughout Europe and beyond, creating fighting techniques that balanced effectiveness with opportunities for individual distinction. The influence of Valhalla on legal and social structures was equally profound. The concept that courage in defense of others earned eternal reward influenced the development of laws protecting the weak and punishing those who abused their power. Communities structured their governance around the principle that those who proved their willingness to sacrifice for the common good deserved corresponding authority and respect. These legal innovations included new forms of military service obligation, codes of conduct for warriors, and systems of reward and recognition that encouraged heroic behavior while also maintaining social order. The balance between individual achievement and collective responsibility that was central to the Valhalla ideal helped shape political systems that could harness martial virtue for constructive purposes. Religious practices throughout the Norse world incorporated elements inspired by Valhalla, particularly the veneration of fallen warriors and the belief that courage in righteous causes could transcend death itself. Funeral rites for warriors killed in battle often included references to their hoped-for admission to the Golden Hall, while temples and sacred sites served as places where the living could seek inspiration from the examples of the heroic dead. The spiritual traditions that developed around the Valhalla concept emphasized the continuity between mortal life and divine existence, teaching that the qualities developed through earthly struggle would determine one's role in cosmic conflicts that extended beyond the boundaries of individual lifetime. This perspective provided comfort to the bereaved while also inspiring continued dedication to heroic ideals. The artistic traditions that grew up around Valhalla produced some of the most enduring works of Norse culture. Poets composed elaborate songs describing the hall and its inhabitants, creating literary works that preserved both the physical details and the spiritual significance of this divine realm. Visual artists crafted depictions of the Einherjar and their eternal training, providing tangible representations of abstract concepts like heroism and eternal glory. These artistic works served educational as well as aesthetic purposes, making the complex mythological concepts accessible to audiences who might not have access to formal religious or military education. Through poetry, song, sculpture, and painting, the ideals associated with Valhalla spread throughout Norse society and beyond, influencing cultural development across vast geographic and temporal spans. As Norse culture evolved and eventually gave way to Christianity and other influences, the core values associated with Valhalla continued to resonate in new forms. The concept of martyrdom for righteous causes, the idea that sacrifice for others earned divine reward, and the belief that courage in the face of evil had cosmic significance all found expression in the new religious and cultural frameworks that emerged. The transition from pagan to Christian culture involved not the abandonment of heroic ideals, but their transformation and integration into new theological and ethical systems. The warrior saints of medieval Christianity, the crusading knights, and the military orders all carried forward elements of the Valhalla tradition, adapted to new spiritual contexts. In the modern era, Valhalla continues to serve as a powerful symbol of heroic aspiration and moral courage. Literature, film, and other forms of popular culture regularly draw upon the imagery and values associated with the Hall of the Slain, adapting these ancient concepts to address contemporary concerns about courage, sacrifice, and the relationship between individual action and collective welfare. The military traditions of many modern nations incorporate elements that can be traced back to the influence of Valhalla, particularly the emphasis on unit cohesion, willingness to sacrifice for comrades, and the idea that military service connects contemporary warriors to a long tradition of heroic conduct. These connections help provide meaning and context for the sacrifices demanded by military service in the modern world, creating continuity between ancient ideals and contemporary realities. Modern military funeral traditions, honor guards, and ceremonies for fallen soldiers often echo the themes of eternal recognition and continued service that were central to the Valhalla concept. The idea that those who die in defense of others achieve a form of immortality through the memory and gratitude of those they protected continues to provide comfort to the bereaved and inspiration to the living. The psychological and spiritual insights embedded in the concept of Valhalla continue to offer valuable perspectives on questions of mortality, meaning, and moral purpose. The idea that how one faces death is more important than whether one can avoid it provides a framework for understanding courage that remains relevant in contemporary contexts. The emphasis on fellowship, mutual support, and collective purpose offers alternatives to individualistic approaches to life that many find insufficient for addressing the challenges of modern existence. Therapeutic and counseling applications have found value in the Valhalla archetype as a way of helping individuals understand their own capacity for heroism and moral courage. The concept that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary significance through their willingness to protect and serve others provides a powerful framework for personal development and ethical growth. The educational applications of the Valhalla tradition extend far beyond military training to encompass character development programs, leadership education, and moral instruction in various civilian contexts. The stories and values associated with the Hall of the Slain provide concrete examples of how abstract virtues can be expressed through practical action, making ethical education more accessible and meaningful. Corporate and organizational cultures have adapted elements of the Valhalla tradition to create environments that encourage teamwork, mutual support, and dedication to collective goals. The emphasis on recognizing and honoring those who sacrifice for the common good has influenced management philosophies and organizational structures in fields ranging from emergency services to business leadership. The environmental and conservation movements have found inspiration in the Valhalla concept of fighting to protect something greater than oneself, adapting the warrior ethos to the challenge of defending the natural world against destruction. The idea that present actions determine the kind of world that will be left for future generations resonates with the temporal perspective that was central to the Einherjar's understanding of their cosmic role. Academic and scholarly traditions continue to find value in studying the Valhalla concept as a window into human values, social organization, and the development of ethical systems. The Hall of the Slain represents one of humanity's most sophisticated attempts to create a comprehensive framework for understanding the relationship between individual virtue and collective welfare, providing insights that remain relevant to contemporary discussions of ethics and social responsibility. The psychological research into heroism and moral courage has drawn extensively upon the Valhalla tradition to understand what motivates individuals to risk their own welfare for the benefit of others. The concept provides a rich source of examples and insights into the factors that enable ordinary people to perform extraordinary acts of service and sacrifice. International humanitarian organizations have found inspiration in the Valhalla ideal of warriors who fight not for conquest but for the protection of the innocent. The emphasis on moral purpose, collective responsibility, and willingness to sacrifice for those who cannot protect themselves aligns closely with the values that drive modern humanitarian efforts around the world. The technological challenges of the modern world have given new relevance to the Valhalla emphasis on preparing for unprecedented threats that require new forms of courage and sacrifice. The concept of warriors who must prepare for battles unlike any fought before resonates with contemporary concerns about global challenges that require coordinated international response and individual willingness to subordinate personal interests to collective survival. Conclusion: the eternal call. As our journey through the golden halls of Valhalla draws to its close, we are left with profound appreciation for the complexity and enduring relevance of this ancient vision of heroic purpose. The Hall of the Slain represents more than just a mythological destination. It embodies humanity's deepest aspirations about courage, sacrifice, and the possibility that individual actions can have cosmic significance. The Einherjar who dwell within Valhalla's walls serve as eternal reminders that heroism is not about achieving impossible feats of strength or winning every battle, but about choosing to stand for what is right regardless of the personal cost. Their daily training, their fellowship, and their acceptance of their destined fate at Ragnarok demonstrate that true courage lies not in the absence of fear, but in the commitment to worthy purposes that transcend individual survival. The Valkyries who select these warriors remind us that heroism can be found in unexpected places, and that the qualities that matter most are often invisible to casual observation. Their careful evaluation of character under extreme conditions teaches us that genuine virtue reveals itself not in moments of triumph, but in how individuals respond to pressure, failure, and the opportunity to help others at personal cost. The eternal feast that nourishes the Einherjar symbolizes the truth that those who give generously of themselves in service to others will find their own needs met in ways they could never have imagined. The divine food and drink that sustain the chosen warriors represent the spiritual nourishment that comes from living with purpose and belonging to something greater than oneself. The training regimen that prepares the Einherjar for their ultimate destiny teaches us that worthwhile preparation often involves practicing for challenges we hope we will never face. The warriors of Valhalla spend eternity preparing for a battle they know they cannot win. Yet they approach this task with dedication and courage because they understand that some things are worth fighting for regardless of the odds. The wisdom preserved in Valhalla's libraries reminds us that knowledge and understanding are as important as physical strength in facing the challenges that life presents. The intellectual traditions of the hall demonstrate that true warriors are also students, constantly learning and growing in their understanding of their role and responsibilities. The songs and stories that fill the Golden Hall teach us about the power of memory and the importance of preserving the examples of those who have gone before us. The musical traditions of Valhalla show us that courage is not just an individual quality, but a collective heritage that can be passed down through generations and across cultural boundaries. The legacy of Valhalla in human culture demonstrates that mythological concepts can have practical effects on how people live their lives and organize their societies. The ideals embodied in the Hall of the Slain have influenced legal systems, military traditions, artistic expressions, and moral education for over 1,000 years, proving that stories can be as powerful as armies in shaping the course of human development. Perhaps most importantly, Valhalla teaches us that death is not the ultimate defeat but a transition, and that how we face our mortality defines the true measure of our lives. The Einherjar who accept their destined fate at Ragnarok while continuing to fight with full commitment show us that meaning comes not from achieving immortality, but from dedicating whatever time we have to purposes worthy of our best efforts. The Hall of the Slain stands as an eternal challenge to each generation to produce individuals worthy of joining the ranks of the greatest heroes in history. It reminds us that heroism is not a quality reserved for a special few, but a potential that exists within everyone who chooses to place the welfare of others above their own comfort and safety. As we face the challenges of our own time, the example of Valhalla calls us to consider what we are willing to fight for, what sacrifices we are prepared to make, and what kind of legacy we want to leave for those who will come after us. The Golden Hall reminds us that while we cannot control the circumstances we face or the ultimate outcome of our struggles, we can choose how we respond to challenge and adversity. Thank you for joining us on this comprehensive journey through the Golden Halls of Valhalla. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Norse mythology and the eternal home of heroes, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with others who might appreciate these ancient stories. We have many more tales from the Norse cosmos waiting to be told, each offering its own insights into the beliefs, values, and aspirations of the peoples who created them. The Great Hall may exist beyond the reach of mortal eyes, but its influence continues to inspire those who seek to live with courage, honor, and dedication to something greater than themselves. The Einherjar may be preparing for a battle that belongs to prophecy and legend, but their example reminds us that every generation faces its own struggles between order and chaos, justice and oppression, hope and despair. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with the sound of eternal feasting and the camaraderie of heroes. May you find in your own life opportunities to demonstrate the courage and compassion that would earn you a place among the chosen slain. And may you face whatever challenges await you with the same determination and honor that echoes through the golden halls of Valhalla. Until next time, this is your guide through the realms of myth and legend, wishing you the courage to face your own battles with honor and the wisdom to know what is truly worth fighting for. The horn of Gjallarhorn may not sound for us in our waking hours, but its call resonates in every moment when we choose to stand up for what is right, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and live with the knowledge that our actions echo through eternity. Remember, dear listeners, that while the Einherjar train for a final battle that may never come in our own world, each of us faces daily opportunities to practice the virtues that would make us worthy of their company. In every act of courage, every moment of sacrifice for others, every choice to do what is right despite the cost, we honor the memory of heroes and add our own names to the eternal roll of those who have chosen to live and die with honor. May the legacy of Valhalla continue to inspire and guide us all, reminding us that while our individual lives may be brief, the impact of courage and compassion echoes through the ages, creating ripples of positive change that extend far beyond our ability to perceive or measure. The Golden Hall awaits not just mythological warriors, but all those who prove themselves worthy through their dedication to protecting and serving others. And so, as the aurora lights dim and the eternal feast continues in halls beyond our sight, we carry with us the knowledge that heroism is not a relic of the past, but a living possibility that awaits our choice in every moment of moral decision. The Einherjar may be legends, but the qualities that earned them their eternal glory remain as accessible to us as they were to the warriors of ages past. We need only the courage to claim them,